we are, back at it. Oh, so much to talk about. The lovely Preakness stakes is almost here, and my life has been a whirlwind trying to get myself to enter the tournament today. And if anybody doesn't know, there is a tournament, so I'll give some shout outs to ExpressBet. They have a $1,500 tournament today. So if you're playing more than $1,000 today and you like something, then I would strongly advise you to send it onto the ExpressBet tournaments page and donate or contribute $500 into the prize pool. Because if you do that, then you have a chance to win. I'm guessing around 25K, little bonus. But that's if you play like me, and if that's appealing to you and you're ballsy enough to go for the win, I think there's some of us that can do that. And if you don't have it, then I don't think you should be playing in the tournament. There is something that's always nice to see your name up there, but that's not what we're doing here. This isn't about getting your name on a board and finishing in the top 10 or whatever, and nobody's really going to care anybody. Nobody's going to check your score. No one's even going to look at your name. It's just the truth. So don't fool yourself. But to yourself, if that matters, and you actually want the personal satisfaction of doing what you say you're going to do and executing, then I believe in that. But anyway, I'm here because I like to talk about horse racing, and I want to at least encourage all of us to grow our abilities. The game is in a very critical place right now with a lot of tracks that might be no longer with us. There's a lot of rumors floating around. I'm worried, and I don't believe that there's enough voices out there that are as committed to sharing true ways of winning at racing. And so as the audience grows, I'll start getting deeper into the show, but I'm going to encourage everybody, if you haven't, I'll turn the comments on the stage for a little bit here. So if somebody does want to comment on the stage, hopefully it's not too ridiculous, but yeah, I put together a video, a conspiracy video, and I hope you enjoyed it. It was a labor of love, and once upon a time, I used to hang out with some theater kids and never really did anything with it. I was a jock and then more of a nerd, but one of my girlfriends became a famous actress, and I always looked up to her for having the courage to just throw herself into the characters that she's presented with. And apologies, I'm looking off to the side here so that I can have better preparation for the things I want to show you today. And I'm going to turn my do not disturb on, but yeah, the joy of self-expression is a lost art in this day and age. Especially, it's not lost because it's everywhere on the reels and the gram. But yeah, I think there's a liberation that comes when you can start to not really think about what people think of you, which is something that's pretty inherent in most of us before technology like this existed. But it is a vehicle. It is a channel for all of us to connect. It's always the paradox. It can connect you to millions of people, and it can create a lot of separation. But I want you guys connected to more insights, and I want to repeat again, if you are betting today, there is a ExpressBet tournament. I do not work with ExpressBet. I'm just saying this because I think it would be more exciting for people to tap in. We have until the start of the 7th race if you wanted to log in, tap in. But that tournament is all about $1,500. Put $500 in the pot, and after you do that, you can win about maybe 20 to 25K if you finish first. Anyway, okay, so let me do this. I'm gonna be multitasking here on making sure that I have my ducks in a row. Given the onslaught of work I've had these last 2 weeks, but I am gonna just be peeking at some races in the background to make sure I don't have to do any show bets for this tournament. Okay, so let's let the audience grow a little further before I get into too much depth on pace. But these comments are available for you right now. So if you want to say something, I'm happy to respond, but keep it focused on pace. And I think the main things I wanted to discuss today were the Derby pace and the Preakness pace. So I'm going to speak to it in a trailer sense now, and then I'll go deeper with some data. But I think the biggest thing that people took away from the Derby pace was that it was hot, right? Like that's what everyone said. It was hot Derby pace. So if I threw it out there to you and I asked, how hot do you think it was? I think most people would give it like a B. And I think that that's pretty common narrative. Now, I think if you would have asked most horse players, they probably would have given it a C to B anyway. So they were right. I think that they projected it correctly. And then there's a gap. There's a gap because if everybody felt that it was going to be a B pace, because everybody said, yeah, there's pace. And then you see 3 closers come in. What does that mean? If it's a B pace, is it a B pace or is it an A pace? Because then you have some people that want to claim it was an A pace. And I think like that's where we're never going to, I mean, we can kind of guess we'll know a little bit after a couple more races, but that is fundamentally the most important part of analysis, pace analysis is looking back after a race is run and seeing what did you project to happen from those pace horses and what actually happened in those races after they ran. And right now, we're not going to learn too much because I'm guessing Sixth Sense is going to or Six whatever his name is going to go back to Dubai or wherever he's going to go. So that Denon Bourbon is probably not going to race here either. We'll see. But that said, we're not going to have true front runners out of that race to come back and give us a true indication of what that pace looked like. So that's also part of the game. The majority of the time, you're going to be guessing and speculating on what's going to happen in the pace. The pace happens, you're still guessing. Even when the fractions are up, you're still guessing. What's the track like? Where the horse is coming from? Is there a bias, which is always overrated? My God. And here we are, where 3 closers win the Derby or run the Derby, and everybody thinks that it was hot or fairly close to hot. And I'm going to take the position that it was average, maybe a slightly tick above average. And I encourage everybody to do this. When you're looking at the pace of a race, you have to think about it from 3 perspectives: fast, slow, average. It's very difficult to predict fast paces. Every once in a while you'll see that, and this is going to I wouldn't say working, but I would say interacting. And he made a comment that you can really only predict the pace 25% of the time. So if you can only predict the pace 25% of the time, good luck predicting a fast pace. I think that's hard. So what you're left with is the pace going to be slow, which is what a lot of horse players do. That's how they try to make money. So I don't want to overemphasize or underemphasize the oh, we got a comment. Derby pace was hotter and observable effect, how it affected the involved runners more so than a historically fast time. Well said, Dane. I do agree that more so than a historically fast time. So this is the predicament. There is no certainty in gambling. And if there's no certainty, you're always playing this game. Eyes versus brain. When you look at the horses running, were they actually running that fast? Visually, did they look like they were tiring in the backstretch? I don't know. I mean, not tiring the backstretch, but just tiring when they were going on around the second turn or first turn. I don't know. It didn't strike me that way. I'm gonna refresh my screen really fast here to see if my lips can catch up to my voice here, even though I'm on a Starlink hardwire. So okay. Hopefully that's a little better, but I still see a slight delay on the string. Anyway, so back to it. When you think about how fast did it need to be, and I'm going to bring up some data in a minute, but because I did on another show with Shuddy, I brought up some fractions. The only reason I'm talking about this is because Ocelli is going to be a horse that that people say benefited from the pace. Possibly, but I think everybody in horse racing loves to drink Kool-Aid. Everybody wants to drink the same drink, past the gin and tonic, past the the rum and Coke or whatever. It's just like, and then there's the people that wanna be different, that really wanna stand out. "Oh my god, I thought of this, and I'm trying to get eyeballs, and I'm trying to say something that's really clever or funny," and then there's no accountability. Like, you could say anything and be like, "Oh my god, I was right." The only thing that shows me you're right is if you put money down on it, and not only money, but it's relative to who you are. So if you're betting normally $1,000 a day and you put $1,000 behind your opinion, then yes, that's average. That's an average declaration of your assessment of a horse to win a race based on pace. But everything is relative. So if you're a $50 bettor and you bet $50 on a horse to win a race because of pace or whatever, if that's I'm talking about your bankroll for the day, then that shows me something. But I'm the type of person that your word matters, but it's more about what you're standing on and what you're putting behind it. Words are worthless, and words are worlds. But if you don't have a backing and you don't declare it and you're not risking anything, it means absolutely nothing. That's why they say oftentimes, not to get into the genders, but women will say words are cheap and actions speak volumes. The words matter when there's actions beneath them. So if you're making a declaration on a horse race and you're not putting money down and the money isn't relative to what you normally bet, you're just attention seeking. There's nothing that's more awkward than attention seeking for some kind of weird subconscious recognition about being right on a horse race. So I'm gonna go down a lot of like philosophical and mental frames behind why people bet on horse racing. And this takes a very interesting range of psychology. If you're gonna bet on horses and you're gonna be good, you basically have to shut the F up. Like, you gotta be quiet. There's no reason to talk about what you're doing ever. It's the parimutuel system, and as everybody knows, when you declare something and if you're good, it only takes $5,000 to drop a horse from 12 to 1 to 5 to 1. If 2 people bet 2,500 or 10 people bet 1,000 or less than 1,000, that's the sign of a true expert or a true player in horse racing. If you give out a pick, I don't understand it. Like, if you wanna have fun, that's cool, and if you're not taking the game seriously to try to make money at it, but I don't understand the tout game. I don't. Um, if you're in a competition or you're playing for charity or you just wanna once in a while say a horse's name, I'm cool with that. But I think fundamentally that's like the hardest challenge for the marketing of the sport, and I'm gonna be bringing on some of the top people in the industry, not today, but I've been arranging a kind of like a think tank to get some of the deepest thinkers in horse racing together to talk about how to help. Um, this is not solving racing's problems is a deeply marketing. It's a actions beneath the marketing in that the players, all of us, must do more, but our hands are tied because of the system of betting. Number one, we don't have fixed odds. We don't have a betting exchange. We don't have hybrid models, not many of them, and they're buried. So the average player that's complaining about the CAAWs, they they have a case in the sense that the odds are dropping, but they could also just go online and find out what the odds are going to be. Like, I still don't understand why racetracks don't put a projected odds up next to the actual real time pools. One of the things that irritates me the most about the media is when they talk about the odds. Um, why would you talk about the odds of a race when there's $10,000 in the pool? Like, that's nothing. It's like, I can't believe the horse's odds are this right now. Again, this is why the whole industry needs a complete restructuring of the communication. Um, cannot have discussions that are meaningless anymore in horse racing. You want to talk about the odds with 5 minutes to go? Let's do it. You want to talk about the market shifting at the last 5 minutes? Let's do it. That makes sense. That's when there's tens and $20,000 and $30,000 being bet on horses. On one end, you have the odds that are projected based on the computer systems team's modeling algorithms. We all have our own idea roughly of what we think the odds should be or will be, and those are two different things too. What do we think they're going to be? What do we project them to be? And then what's actually bettable? So the entire communication around racing is not designed to inform players of the best way to optimize to win money. There is no media outlet that can go ahead and tell people, yeah, this race is just impossible for a variety of reasons. With a 20% takeout, or roughly 20, let's use that, 15 to 18 are in the win pool. And I'm talking about win wagering right now. I understand the incentives are there for media to encourage people to bet on nothingness. Um, on one end, this industry wants to encourage people to bet, and lose, and it's finally caught up to them where they realize if you encourage people to bet this much without any support, you're gonna bleed them dry. And I'm not even wanting people to bleed. You should have some bumps and bruises and some scabs, but, like, this is this is just watching people suffer, and now you see the, um, the propagation of the pain through the CAAWs. And the CAAWs are just shining light on malpractice the malpractice from the industry and the malpractice from the players. Discipline. There are times when the odds will go your in your favor for the CAAWs. Um, the CAAWs are not going to win probably more than, I would say, 30% of the time. Or let's say, call it 30s in the win pool, right? Let's just use that arbitrarily. That means they're going to fail 70% of the time. Or let's go a step further and say they win half the time if they're betting multiple horses. If they're betting multiple horses, that's half the time you're going to win when they fail. Go a step further, say they win 70% of the time. That means they're going to fail 30% of the time. This is the biggest storm I've ever seen. So many levels. You've got an industry that has completely turned its back on the horse player forever. And I mean that because they don't know how to support the horse player. They don't. So somebody said, do CAAWs raise takeout on regular customers? Well, what they're doing is if they bet 5,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 on a favorite and the odds go down, then effectively you're getting paid less. So the takeout, whatever you want to call it, at the end of the day, when you're not winning enough, the same amount of money, you could view it as a takeout. But my point is the CAAWs are a symptom. But this industry is not invested in understanding how to support horse players because the whole game is designed about being smart individually. And in a true model, a true, highly effective, helpful support regiment for horse players, in the ideal world of the ideal world, how many horse players do you think would actually win? Like, think about that. Okay, so, and I'm thinking more about relative to the percentage of the money. And well, actually, let's not do the ideal of the ideal world. Let's do the ideal world with the CAAWs. If you remove the CAAWs, I guess there's two things you could do. If you strip the rebates from the CAAWs, that would change things because then the CAAWs would have to compete on a level playing field. And that would hurt the revenues of the racetracks because the volume would go down. But you know what? A lot of us love this game so much, have invested so much into it. You can see this with the price insensitivity by the retail players losing 30 to 50% per year. Easy. This price insensitivity, I'm curious, and I'm not necessarily saying this should be done, but I'm curious if you cut the rebates off, and I mean 0 or 1%, like 2%, whatever, like an average, like an average upper class, player gets 3%, right? Whatever. If you did that, do you think they really leave the game? Do you think after investing minimum 2 million, median investment probably 5, regular investment in terms of employees probably another 2. So if the run rate is 2 to 5 million a year, just paying for technology and employees and stuff and data services, if you cut them off, something tells me they're still going to play because ego. That's a challenge for them now. How are they going to bet when they're on a level playing field? What happens? Do they bet the same amount? No. They'll bet less. So the question is the ratio of how much money does the industry lose from not having, 40% of it come from rebate shops, through rebate shops? Do you think that out of the 10 or 15 teams, maybe 17 teams, do you think that all of that money will go away? So every single CAW player that has invested 2 to 5 million to build their network and pay their people, they're just going to shut their stuff down. I find that hard to believe. So I think there's an experiment that could be had there. It's a bit of a waiting game too, because it's a little political because the CAWs might see it coming, and they may not want to bet $1 to try to hold their ground, because if they do that and they give in and they start betting, then they might see the writing on the wall that those rebates come down. And I know I'm getting off tangent here from pace, and I'll come back to pace, but I'm just freestyling right now thinking about this. If the CAW market represents 40% right now, and they're cut off to 1 to 3% rebates like most of us, let's say it's cut in half. So let's say that half the players leave entirely, shut down all of their systems. Okay. Whatever that 20% dip in revenue looks like to the industry, could that be made up for with a new marketing approach that says, we're a level playing field again? We want the playing field to allow the smartest of the smart to compete against I don't want to say that, but the up and comers. So I don't know. I'm here to generate ideas. Ideation is one of the greatest parts of living in a republic. We don't really have too many outlets for that, and we understand that when you're in a highly regulated industry, it's very difficult to get multiple factions to agree and to experiment, take risks. If somebody in the racing industry said, let's cut off ADWs, rebates. They're not allowed to play, but rebates. And even if you tried to cut off them from playing, they'll find another person's name to get into. So you have to realize the necessary evils that exist with CAWs. If you cut the rebates down to a flat rebate of 3% across the board for high volume players, an executive put that, on their memo, there's a good chance that person gets fired. There's a greater than 50% chance that horse gets or that person gets fired. Most people would not want to take that risk, which is funny, right? This whole industry is risk averse. So, um, I invite leadership into the racing industry. I invite risk takers. I invite forward thinkers, long-term thinkers. There are no long-term thinkers in racing, and there never have been. Everybody is thinking quarter to quarter, year to year, and that's it. And here we are. When I worked at 3 or 4 startups, 2 of which went public, one was Betfair, when I was with them with the betting exchange trying to legalize that, um, for 4 years, and yeah, hopefully it gets there, like, if we didn't grow at 15%, we're fired. You have a quarter, maybe 2 quarters. You grow at 15% or you're fired. Every industry I've worked in has been that way. In horse racing, somehow, because the bleeding has just been we have tourniquet or we have, gauze pad after gauze pad, it's become acceptable to remain flat. And the metrics we're using have been highly, misleading. The idea of handle and seeing, flat handle. When I first was with Betfair, in '07 to '09 or '06 to '09, handle was around 15 billion. I put together presentations that said, "We're gonna be at 10 billion in 10 years," and the horsemen would laugh at me. And I'm not making this about me. This is just standard average growth rates. When you look at when things start to flatten 10, 15 years ago, maybe more than 15 years ago, the writing is on the wall. And when you look at handle, which doesn't represent retail players versus CAAWs, there's no the reason you post numbers is because you want to make decisions to understand the truth of what your objectives are. And it's like statistics and damn lies and all that kind of jazz. Statistics can confuse anybody. They can be manipulated. But one of the biggest manipulations in the sport, and I don't know if this was manipulative on purpose or the executives knew this, but when the growth rates amongst retail players are staggeringly low, and you see TVG or FanDuel removing themselves from televising horse racing on a regular basis, probably because they can make more money off their sports bettors, because they're getting taxed, 3 times more. I think all of this is common sense. I think everybody knows all this, so I'm not trying to state the obvious, but you have the indicators, the key performance indicators for a lot of racing as the, kind of the misleading, indicators or the hidden indicators. So, my goal is to bring together great minds and to put thoughtfulness into decisions around the marketing of racing. I can't tell someone where to go to learn how to win on the horse races. I cannot point them to a person or to a track record or, like a Kramer for, stocks. I can't, and I'm not looking to be that guy. I'm not here to give out horses. I'm if I was giving out horses, the first thing you should say is, "Okay, he's the guy that's writing the book that, didn't really see the conspiracy thing and is just trying to make money off something." I don't wanna be a guy talking about who's going to win a horse race, okay? I wanna be a guy that can celebrate with winning horse players and scores and bad beats. Because when a horse loses and you're close and there's an excuse, that's fun in kind of a twisted sense. But that's the glory of the game. The glory of the game is the suffering, ironically. Because if you're playing this game well, you're not gonna be winning more than 20% of the time. And so that is a fundamental psychology, it's kind of like a mind fuck. It's like wanting to be in pain to eventually find your bliss. And that pain is the journey, the majority of the journey. Most people don't realize the destination is 1%, if that. 99% of the time, it's the journey, and then the journey is into slices. You have the idea of the journey, you're in the middle of the journey, you're toward the end of the journey, and then you're there. The reason you love winning on horse racing is not because of the actual win. It's all the time and the thought that went into the win. Every hour you spent on that race, like the Derby. Why do people love the Derby I'm talking horse players? I heard someone say they've looked at it for 30 hours. That's a day of your life. Staring at zeros and ones in black and white paper or digital paper. If you spend 30 hours of your life looking at statistics, it better feel good if you win. And that's why the come down is also brutal. When you watch that race and you were wrong or you missed some data point, or the bad beat, whatever, but the bad beat doesn't hurt as bad, provided your bad beat is actually excusable or it's not an excuse for you to think you were going to win when you were never going to win, because there's that whole charade. The mirage of winning when you really didn't have a chance. And that is something that is a whole episode in of its own, because people just fool themselves. They love to fool themselves. And I fool myself sometimes too. And I want everybody to do a gut check on their foolishness, their reality check, right? People love to harp on the conspiracy theorists. And if you haven't seen my video yet, that is the repressed theater kid in me that never got to see the light of day because of the fear of what people might think of you in high school and all that jazz. Well, you obviously probably saw my reality show, Horse Players, which was more reality than make-believe, but that's on Amazon if you wanted to flick through it. It's a joke that they charge for it, but there's a little play up in that just because I didn't want all of us to lose. So by focusing on my spiritual side, which is real, I think it unleashed a little more drama, especially with the rest of the cast. My God, it's really interesting to see all those guys hating on me, which I don't care. But back to this idea of being a repressed expressionist. Expression is all we have. I mean, even if you're under political curtains or strife or lockdowns in various countries, the one thing that nobody can ever take from you is your imagination and your expression. And so, I mean, obviously it's easy to forget what's going on in the world, but there's a lot of people suffering right now. And I think, their expression is all they have, whether it's a gesture, a hug, a thought, a make-believe moment. And I think expression it's beautiful right now in some ways online. Like you see so much education and you see so much foolery. I love it, but I hate it too. You know, you hate the distractions, you hate the scrutiny. But I get off on tangents, so reeling it back in to the real, watch the video I did on the conspiracy of the weakness stakes. I think the Preakness is actually very, very interesting this year, rather than being as bad as maybe I made it seem to be. It was more of a joke, and I want people to realize that. The important thing is, don't take life so serious, especially us horse players. That's what we do. Every race is live or die for us. Like, I've had many a days where I've given away my weekends for horse racing. I mean, I probably looked at horse racing every weekend of my life, starting at like 14. That doesn't mean I'm betting every weekend. It just means I'm looking at it. And I have my own system, my own ways of keeping up with stuff, but I was going to say that I've given up a lot of weekends where I did not win. And I could have gone to Joshua Tree. I could have gone, to somebody's, birthday, or could have gone for a run, or could have gone traveling, or with a girlfriend, or whatever, or with family. That's the thing, is the sacrifice. And that's why the winning is so important in racing. There's profit and there's winning. The dopamine spike comes from both, but you have to have a balance. And racing struggles, and I'm going to come back to some of the other things I was talking about. It struggles due to the system of the game. You have a match, an event that can only be successful for profit roughly 20% of the time, maybe 25%. And yes, you can be a heavy chalk player. And I'm talking about trying to clear a 10% margin. So if you're not trying to win 10% of horse racing, I consider you an alternative player. That's a different lifestyle. If you're trying to make a living at horse racing, and my God, I've had some amazing years, but there are years where it doesn't hit 10% too. And you have to regroup and ask yourself, am I losing my edge? What were the key factors in that year? I bet far less races than the average person. I'll bet less than 10% of the races I look at. As a matter of fact, I need to look at a race, and I'm going to multitask. And because this show is one of my nicknames is Raw or Die, because I like to keep it raw and I like to multitask. So the idea of losing 80% of the time is something, and getting taxed 3x. So you're getting taxed 3 times as much, and you're losing 80% of the time. That is the reason, that is the barrier, that is the mountain horse racing must climb, and that's why it's failed. And that's not their fault. I mean, you could say, let's say they lowered the taxes and they reduced the win takeout to 10%. Do you think that's really going to shift the needle? It could long term. I was saying before that the thinkers are not thinking long term. So that is a problem. When you don't think long term, you have a fundamental error in your growth rates. I mean, you can pat yourself on the back and say, yeah, I made, X amount of money this year, but deep down in your conscience, to what cost. You're sacrificing long-term revenue for short-term gain. And I understand most people have a job and they get paid today. They don't get paid if the industry grows. And that's another problem, is people aren't incentivized in the industry to stay for a long time. You've seen so much turnover that this industry has to train and rethink everybody when they come in new and fresh. And everyone thinks they have the idea of how to save racing. And again, I'm multitasking here because I want to do something in this tournament here. But I do believe that some of these troubles everybody loves to blame. And I'm not blaming these executives right now per se. I'm just indicating what the landscape looks like. The landscape is you're trying to do the impossible. Marketing horse racing is virtually impossible. Okay? It's virtually impossible. And I don't know if everyone fully grasps what I mean by that, but I'm going to tell you why. I just mentioned the first couple things. 3 times higher tax rate, 20% to 25% win rate. So half as many hands. So imagine playing blackjack and paying 3 times as much for your blackjack and winning half as much. 3 times as much of a reduction in your payout. So imagine you hit blackjack and you get a third of 1.5, right? So imagine you hit blackjack. Oh, I get 1.5. Nope. You're going to get 0.3 or whatever. So my point is that's the math that we're facing right now. Why do you think everybody's so difficult in horse racing? Do you think that's a fun job? Do you think it's a fun job if you don't know how to gamble on horses? But you love horse racing. Do you think that's actually going to be a fun job? Like how could you be successful selling that, right? The reason people love horse racing is highly, highly emotional, which is why there's so much money invested in the emotional aspect of racing. And that's why people grow up going to racetracks and getting into the game. Because by growing up, you have an appreciation for more than just the gamble or more than just the ego stroke. You have an appreciation for the human experience behind horse racing. And that's one of the most beautiful things about it is you get to watch one of the most precious pastimes that exists, man and horse, how this country was founded, manifest destiny. Horses and humans have a very special relationship, and that's what you see in a lot of this, right? You see a lot of this happen in racing. You see the connection. There is something that's really beautiful about walking up to a horse for the first time. Or, I mean, I groomed horses, or not really groomed, hot walked when I was 18, which is another long story. Very interesting story. I had 3 jobs working as the turf club as a waiter and bussing tables in high school. But my thing is like, I love taking people to horse races. And you know how often I go to the horse races? Probably less than 10 times a year. And that's for selfish reasons, because it is difficult to teach people how to do things. So when I go to the races now, if I'm actually going to bet so let's say it's a day at the races and I like something. If I don't like something, then I'll go to the races. It's not a big deal. I don't have to worry about betting. I will take my crowd, my posse, my people, and I will make every single bet before the races start. And I will hand them, tell me how much money you're betting, and I will hand them a stack. And that stack removes my anxiety for the day. And if I need to make an adjustment and a horse dips, then I will cancel the ticket or tell them to cancel it. But this is the user experience for me as a professional when I take people to the racetrack. They'll think, oh, let's have fun, let's goof around, They don't realize this is life or death for me. My existence, my income for more than 15 years was solely derived from horse racing. Most people don't realize that. I don't talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to go up to people and say, this is how I make my money or blah, blah, blah. No. The point is, when you are in it for real, you are always going to be alone. No one's ever going to understand. So all the people I take to the track, they have no idea. I'm not talking about my fellow horse players. And then even when you're with your fellow horse players, it gets weird, right? Because everyone's got their thing and everyone wants to look good. Everyone wants to flex. Everyone wants to say they had it. Great. I mean, I'm not opposed to that to some extent, but I think that's when it gets in the way. Okay. Pardon the eye shuffle there. I needed to check something for this tournament today, just so I can at least get a couple of other things done. And if you are, I'm going to say it a third time, an express bet, you're welcome. There is a $1,500 Preakness Stakes tournament. And if you did not watch my mockery of the Preakness this year, you're missing out. You're missing out on the 18-year-old high school version of me that never got to come out. And after going to Burning Man more than 10 years, I don't give a rat's ass about what people think of my random expression. I mean, you can kind of see that on the reality show too, Horseplayers, that I did. But, liberation through expression. My goal is not to look polished. I'm doing a podcast from inside a converted Mercedes Sprinter van that's like a cabin. I'm going to be looking at my racing form in the background. I'm going to be texting. I'm going to be looking at how many people are watching right now and getting up to 500 or whatever. I'm interested in helping people understand themselves when it comes to gambling in various industries, but horse racing first. If you care about gambling, you can watch this and just, hey, who the hell is this guy? That's fine too. I don't care. But I'm saying if you really want to make money on horse racing and you're not just an average person who's going to just go, oh, how's this guy wrong? Oh my God, his hair, it's in a bun. Oh my God, he only won this one thing, or he's only won this many tournaments, or he thinks he's smarter than he is. That's your narrative that's going to prevent you from actually learning anything. I went to a very prestigious university and had the same dialogue. I know more than this professor. I know more than this guy. I can't believe I got a B. I can't believe they didn't understand that when I did this engineering problem this way, that it got to the same answer, but using a different formula or a different logic or a different proof. We get in our own ways and we drink our own punch, and that's what prevents us from making money on horse racing, on anything, any decision making. And so let me say this. Have you met a person who makes money on horse racing? Like legit? Like, do you have a friend that makes more than 6 figures betting on horses? And if you do, when you look at that person, or if you've listened to them online, I'm not always talking about me right here. I'm talking about all kinds of people. Look at the parallel in their lives with their decision making. Look at how they choose their partner. Look at how they treat their kids. Look at how they handle their anger. Look at how they handle when they get their toys taken from them. Are they a 5-year-old kindergartner who's shouting? Or are they cool and they understand that life can suck? There are so many aspects to our subconscious that get in the way of making money on horses. So many things. I suffer from mistake, like fear of mistakes. And also, I like to wait till the last minute. And that's been a thing that's indicated to me that I'm not taking things seriously. And that hasn't happened in a while. But do you have any idea how many, I could say close to $1 million lost because of waiting to the last minute? Telling myself a story. Oh, you don't need to pull over. You can just bet it on your phone in your car when you're driving, which is a bad thing. Pardon me. Oh, you'll get to it. Oh, you'll do this when you get to the track. One of my favorite bad beats was just being a second late on a pick 5 at Saratoga. And I mentioned this on a panel once. Single 220-1 shots in a pick 5. Cost me nothing. Nothing. $40 maybe 50. I took a bunch of horses and then the other races, or I singled 120-1 shot, sorry, and then I took another price, and then I had 5 horses and another pick 5, and I was at Saratoga, and you got to love the internet at Saratoga. Was sitting in a restaurant, had the computer open, 2 friends, didn't want to be rude, was looking at my thing, said, guys, let me turn this off, and closed my machine, got to the track, pressed the bet. missed it by 1 second because of the bandwidth, and opened my phone. I was like, why isn't this going through? And then I saw the race. It wasn't at Saratoga. It was at a simulcast. It cost me almost 400K. Probably one of the sickest feelings of my life for like 40 bucks. But those are the subconscious things that get in the way. When you're going to be betting on horses, everything is linked. The way you treat yourself, the way you talk to yourself, the voices, the postmortem, the accountability, self-sabotage, who you're surrounding yourself with, who you're talking to. Are you talking to people because you want some kind of, are you leeching? Are you trying to like steal their information because you're not good enough and you really want to understand and you need the validation? Oh my God, if so-and-so doesn't like my horse, then I must be wrong. If those are the things that are happening, then just identify it, call it what it is, understand that you're weak, to play on the weakness stakes skit that I just did on Twitter. But there's nothing wrong with not being good at something. Just manage your bankroll accordingly. Bet less. It's not that hard. You can still love horse racing. You don't have to bet. Or you can bet pennies. If you bet a $2 trifecta with a bomb and you make 500 bucks or 1,000, you're still going to be happy. You're going to be a hell of a lot happier than losing 10 to 50 grand a year if you're betting on horses that way. I just want people to be cognizant of the journey they're on, because this is not about winning. It's about the journey to winning. 99% of the time you're betting on horses, you're in the journey. And so being in the journey, I want to come back to the pace analysis that I was talking about. That's important. And I'm not going to apologize, because I do like to talk abstractly about things, but we will dive into the pace a little bit here. I think that I'm going to be looking at the form in the background, so if my eyes are not on the screen, get used to it. But the idea here is you have the Derby pace, and I was early in this conversation discussing the mirage that's always existing in racing. There's the mirage, the facade, whatever you want to call it. When you look at a race, you're going to be wrong 80% of the time. And I don't know if I said what I was going to say 30 minutes ago, but one of the CAAW guys said to me about paces is he's like, you're only going to predict it 25% of the time correct. So if you're, one of the best in the world on horse racing, and you can predict the pace 25% of the time, that almost begs the question, should you ever try to predict the pace? Like, what's the point? And then it's not even about that. It's about, can you predict the pace to make money for yourself? I don't care if you predict the pace 50% of the time right, to the fractions 5th or 10th. Does it matter if when you do that, you can't identify a horse or a context or an event that will lead you to profit? Doesn't matter. So I want that to be the goal again. That is the journey. It's to profit. Well, it's both. The destination is profit, but the journey to profit and the expression, the self-expression of the suffering, to get your mind right, to learn, to use the tools such as pace as one, to be able to guide you on the map to get to where you're going, because you're never going to get there in a straight line. It's always the scenic route. So let's look at this pace for a minute. Let's talk about two things. We're going to talk about the Derby pace again, for those that weren't on there as we get bigger in numbers. I want everyone to understand the narratives that enter the horse player's mind. The first thing, crowdsourcing, or not crowdsourcing, crowd wisdom of crowds. Everybody likes to be right when everyone else is with them. Fundamental flaw. The most exciting, not just in horse racing, parts of my life, which is also another bit of fuckery, is being in the in crowd. And that's why this is going back to the conspiracy. If you're the conspirist, you're the conspiracy theorist that says, oh my God, I know this about politics or this medicine or this practice or doctors or insurance companies or, the media or the deep state or the Epstein files or whatever it is. You want to be in the know, and this thing, and everyone's, you're special, and nobody else knows it. And then those that do know that are like in your in crowd, and the in crowd is really fun sometimes. But you got to be careful. Are you in the in crowd just to be in the in crowd so that you feel special inside, that you know something that somebody doesn't know? So there's a whole mind play there. And I want people to think that your goal is to be in the in crowd and be in the special of the contrarian. That's where you need to be to make money. You will not make money in horse racing, bet what everyone else thinks, ever. If I like a horse and 5 people like a horse that like that horse, or 3 people, that's a problem for me, based on my data, based on my research, based on everything that I've seen. Now, that might be different for you. Track it. Look at a year, look at 5 years, look at 10 years, look at 15 years, and find out if every time this person or these people like your horses, is that a good thing that supports your data? Is it coincidence, or is it just that the fact that Dodge on Monday for the last 2 years? And that's just pure nonsense. It's just, what do they call that? That one book about economics or stats, it'll come to me. But anyway, falsehood around stats. Yeah. So, when it comes to being contrarian and being in this in-group, supposedly in-group, your in-group, not the masses in-group, that's where you're going. The inclination is to look at the wisdom of crowds and to check and go, do people agree with me? Am I okay? Am I safe? Okay, I'm safe. Everyone thinks I'm not an idiot. I'm not an idiot. So we have the self-sabotage of not being smart enough, which is, one of the most prevalent in my life and in many, many people's lives. It's also the idea, people like togetherness. They don't want to be alone. They don't want to be hated on. They don't want to be criticized or scrutinized. So that's another thing that makes it really hard to be a winning horse player, is you have to get past that. You have to win 20% of the time. You have to get taxed 3x, and you have to be willing to be criticized or unliked and not liked and private and alone, because the more you talk about things, the more you're going to get watered down and diluted from what people say. You cannot get influenced easily in general to be good at anything. You have to be certain in yourself. You have to know what you're doing. The only way you know what you're doing is track record, accountability, results. And when it comes to things like the pace in a race, number one, 25% of the time is the most you're going to ever predict it accurately, according to one of the best I've ever met. Second, even if you're predicting it correct, is it leading to profit? Is it leading to an advantage? Is it leading to something that can help you make a decision to potentially increase your profit? And so the first, guide or theorem, I don't know what to call this, is challenge the narrative every time, especially in the media. Anything that comes out in the media, and I'm not saying people are wrong. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. What does their opinion mean? Earlier in the show, I talked about this, the importance of backing your opinion with dollars and money. If you don't back your opinion with something, and you can do that a lot of ways. You can do that with big words. I did say words are cheap earlier, without anything backing them, but you can make a big accusation. You can make a big claim and say, hey, this horse is going to win the Kentucky Derby, and you're all going to be kissing my feet. And that's a big thing to do that. If you do that once, and you were right, that actually means something to me, to go on a limb. Most people don't go on limbs, and most people will record videos before and after races, or they'll have multiple recordings of situations of them talking about horses, and then they'll post them or air them and then point to them afterwards and be like, oh, look, I had it. There's an integrity issue, that there's a scrub that could be done to validate the exact opinion of people a variety of ways too. So be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout, challenge everything. So back to being contrarian, you must challenge the narrative every time. You must challenge what people say and have your own opinion. Think independently about what is going on. That is your goal. Think independently. And so when you think independently, it's not going to be easy. It's gonna hurt, especially if you're used to thinking with, in a straight line or a parallel with a lot of other people. So I'm gonna get to the pace. I know you want me to get, slow it down or whatever, get to it, but I'm gonna go abstract, and we have some more comments here. Um, One of the things big growing sports have is an overall commissioner, best growing sports. Um, well, Rapoli's making waves. I mean, if you were to ask yourself right now, who I'm gonna turn off these. Well, I'll leave the comments in. It doesn't matter. If you were to ask yourself, who's the commissioner of racing? Who has the most power in racing right now? That's what the commissioner is. Power. Okay? Power to influence, power to execute. Mike Rapoli is kind of the commissioner of racing. I don't care if he's self-appointed. You got to give the guy respect. That doesn't mean he's not difficult. The most powerful people are difficult. But what I'm saying is, it takes a lot of courage to step into the light and say, hey, we got to do something different. Here's a billionaire who's willing to put himself out there to say, guys, meeting once a quarter at the jockey club is not enough. We're on a lifeline. And that's one of the reasons I'm stepping into the light. Like, more people that are intelligent, that love this game, need to do more. I've been in the shadows for too long because I don't want to talk about giving out horses. It's probably the most boring thing I could do with my life. What I do want to do is help people understand the game, and I want to help people have fun, see their blind spots, grow as a person, more importantly than winning on horses, and make change. Like, we have to change things in life. It's always going to happen, whether you have a health injury, a health issue, an injury, life catastrophe, a betrayal, a shock, financial, whatever, or you grow a different part of your brain and you see the world differently. But I respect anybody who puts themselves in the fire, whether it's with their words, it's with their claims, their takes, their opinions, with a backing and consistency. So there are entertainers, there's comedians. I love comedy, especially when it's funny, right? I would give myself a B on my skit. If you saw the Preakness skit that I just did yesterday, I'll give it a B. I can do better, and I will do better. But that was my first attempt at releasing my inner child. And so the goal is, if you're not, kissing fear on the lips, you're not really living. And the fear of being judged, or the fear of like putting yourself out there. And guess what? People can be wrong when they put themselves out there. I don't know all the details about what Rapoli wants. Nobody's ever going to always agree with everybody else. But for a guy to put it on the line, who's got a lifestyle that doesn't need to do this, and he's doing it for free, granted he owns horses and there's an incentive there, and I get it. But let's face it, when this guy said, we need a commissioner. Well, you've got 50 states, heavily regulated industry, horsemen's groups, racetrack executives, a lot of like family ties, and you've got 3 times higher tax, 2 times higher lower win rate than a normal game. At least if you're good. If you're not good at horse racing, you're losing 3x. So 3 times tax higher, and you're losing 3 times as much than you would on a hand of blackjack or a sports bet. Okay, back to being contrarian. So when you're contrarian, challenge the narrative. The first narrative that came up with the Derby is what? The pace was hot. Okay, well, back to the idea of predicting the pace. That's why we care. We are predicting the pace for future races from that pace. I don't care what the pace figures look like, but I do. And that's the paradox. So if I were to think about the pace, I think I have a document here that I want to bring up that might give you guys some extra knowledge, just to make it kind of interesting here. Actually, I think I'd rather do it the other way. there's a lot in the math, right? I'm an engineering major by heart, so I really do appreciate the math of um, of everything. It's one tool. It's not the end all be all tool, but it's one tool. So I take it not with a grain of salt, but it's a tool. So it's like when you meet someone, you look at how they present themselves, the confidence in their eyes, the feeling they give you. Are they somebody I trust? Would I trust them with my family? With like a serious decision, a financial decision? Are they always kind of got that weird little energy about them? Or you heard those stories and you can see why when you first meet them. So the idea is the impression matters of the numbers and beyond the numbers. There's the qualitative and the quantitative. So I just wanted to show you, I did this on another show with Shetty, but I want to just screen share here for a moment, and that will get you guys, I don't want to share the whole screen. Let's see if I can do this. How do I do? Let's do it like this. All right. Oh, okay. That was right. Okay, cool. Let's go to the pace of the Derby, if I can find it. Oh, window. That's why. Okay. Here we go. It's just the, yeah. Okay, I'm going to bring this up. I'm curious, is that, yeah, that's cool. That's neat how I can see both. All right, so when you look at this, I just wanted to share with you the Derby pace for the last 40 years. Okay, 40 years. I'm not saying that I know anything about anything right now. When I talk about being contrarian and challenging the narratives, that's the first tool that is necessary to be a winning horse player. Somebody says something, the first inclination is to go, I bet that's not true. Every time. You should do the same. And sometimes the ego is also a thing that's weird. When somebody says they like a horse and you want to root against the horse and you want to prove that you're smarter than that person, different animal. They're kind of like parallel in a way, but they don't go to the same place. They're parallel. They go off a little bit. Be careful of the idea of trying to win and flex your comrades or your homies or your people. That can be an interference pattern that doesn't allow you to see objectively in what's actually the truth that you know for your prediction of probability accuracy to win, to actually win money based on being contrarian. Sorry to be so full of jargon there, but my mind is a bit, fast moving sometimes. But anyway, look at these horses, okay? First quarter, opening quarter mile. I just want to point out that it's very clear that the opening quarter was hot-ish. 40 years, it's right in the middle. Okay, let's do it this way. If the median is roughly 22.8 or the average, I mean, it's probably going to be right around there. If the average is 22.8 for the opening quarter, it's one length faster, maybe 1.5 lengths faster for the first 22 and 0.7 seconds. Okay. One length faster. Let's call it that just for simplicity. Okay. It's not 2 lengths, which is a lot more to me based on my research. I said this from the get-go. It's lukewarm. Okay. So it was lukewarm to me. That is one indication. You want to talk about a horse who ran a hell of a derby? Bodemeister to finish second. Anyway, Authentic won the Derby on the lead. Hard Spun came second. Citizen Bull spit it out. And a lot of these horses, Lionheart came second. Winning Colors obviously was a champ. Medina Spirit won it on a slow pace. Dortmund ran third, Warren won on a slow pace. And look at some of these other scrubs that didn't win on slow paces. Or let's not do that. Anyway, you can see that none of these horses really did well on the lead, though. That's the first indication or scrub check. Quarter destroyed the majority of these horses. Did it kill 6-speed? Yeah, it hurt a little bit. The next question is the half mile. Okay, so if 6-speed ran in the 45s, I would 100% agree with the assessment of the wisdom of crowds. But now we are looking at 46.4. That's 10 seconds slower than Song and a Prayer. 1 second slower than Palace Malice, who ran fast. And Bodemeister ran 6 lengths faster if you wanted to say the variant was the same on a fast track. And granted, the variant's hard to judge in a mile and a quarter. I'm just trying to give you a way to be different. That doesn't mean I'm right. Again, I'm sharing data points. That doesn't mean anything. You can throw this out. It's just like in research, you grab data sets and you line them all up and you test them and you start to ask yourself, does it matter? And the only way to check it is to assume variables mean something, and then you start beta testing or back testing. So I'm not sharing with you a lot of the things I do personally with my research. I'm sharing with you just some very high level things you can do as a horse player to look at the simplicity of the math and then look at the narratives in the sport and see if they're correct or not. So is 38.7 miles an hour that much faster than 38.6 miles here, 38.6, 38.5? No. You could make the case that 6-speed ran 1 length faster at the first call, right? And 1.5 lengths or so faster than Medina Spirit, or 2 lengths faster than Medina Spirit. Okay, so let's just do that. Let's say the pace of the Derby, and I know I'm being crude, and I'm saying that this track's the exact same on that day. I just want to give you one tool to challenge narratives. 6-speed ran maybe a length or two faster than Medina Spirit at the first call and a length or two faster at the second call. And now we're going to get some hardcore stuff here, and hopefully I'm not losing too many people, but we got a lot of people listening. So the thing is, a story you can tell yourself is, if 6-speed runs 2 lengths faster at the first call and 2 lengths faster at the second call, is that a hot pace? Depends on what you think of Medina Spirit. Okay. It was, considerably faster than War Emblem. So, it's clearly not slow. It's probably not average, but I don't think it's hot. And so that was something that I wanted you to see, to have like at least the idea of how to challenge a narrative. We got a lot of people in this room right now, and I don't want to lose people for getting too technical. So I'm going to get off the math and we're going to get into the Preakness here. But if you're going to bet on horses and you're not doing math, I don't know what to say. A big part of this game is having a technical background. The best players I know are very deep in the numbers. The problem with the numbers is the numbers are in the past. It's what you do with the numbers moving forward. You can have all the accuracy in your speed figures you want. You can predict them to a T. Well, it's not even about predicting them. It's about accurately defining them based on the past. But then you have the whole idea of, you can test some of them. Some of them will come back accurate, but you're going to go down the road and say, well, this horse came out of this race and did that. This horse did that. And this horse ran up the track, and this horse ran fast, and this horse ran slow. How can I accurately assess whether or not the race was good or the pace was good? If 3 horses come out of that race and all run the same time or a similar fast pace based on your, racetrack variance and your, assessment of the other horses in those races, if you're going to use back class, then that's right. But the majority of the time in horse racing, at least 25% of the time, these horses do not run at all, whether for whatever reason, mental or physical. So you have that whole marker that screws up so much data. I'm going to summarize. You're going to predict the pace 25% of the time correctly, according to one of the best CAAW players I know. That's the best they can do. Does the pace even matter then? How much emphasis should I put in predicting the pace? If you would have asked me what the pace on the Derby set would have been, I would have said probably, yeah, slightly above average. I think everybody knows, so I bet, I don't know, not everybody that's listening here, but I took the front end of the Derby this year, and I don't like betting the front end of the Derby. I told everybody that I would not touch a horse under 20-1 because I thought everybody was below par based on the way I do things. I did not. The Derby itself is impossible. I did a video from the track explaining, please don't bet on horses below 20-1 this year. It's chaos. And it's chaos because of the fact that the race is so far and the field was very mediocre. And the pace was going to be slightly above par to me. And I was right. But I mean, again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the pace was hot. We're going to see these horses come out of it. And if Six Speed and Denon Bourbon run really well, then yeah, I'll take the L, or take the inaccurate opinion. What is that? IO. So I just want everyone to think that you're going to be wrong when you predict the pace. Your goal is to use the numbers to make a decision, a financial decision, to make profit of more than 10% if you're a professional. If you're just having fun, you don't need to listen to this. Doesn't matter. It doesn't apply to you. Have fun. Do your thing. Manage your money. Know how much you're betting. Stay disciplined. Don't throw away your life savings. Don't get sucked into the media and the hype and all that kind of stuff. But remind yourself, the first tool that I'm encouraging you to do is challenge the narrative and pull back as many layers of the onion as possible. I showed you one, so we're going to go to the Preakness now. All right, so let's look at the Preakness. And I'm not sure if I'm allowed to bring up like the racing forum on the show. I don't, this is all new for me. I'm just having fun. This is just a little side project because horse racing needs, I don't know, I think that people are enjoying this, and I've gotten a lot of good feedback. So I appreciate it. So please, retweet the show. If you haven't subscribed to the show and you like what I'm talking about, I really encourage you to do so, because I'm working on something else too. I really want to encourage people to get better at gambling. And if you understand what it's like to create content and how much time and energy I put into this for free, it would mean a lot to me to subscribe so that I can have more marketing abilities to present more ideas, because I'm putting together a group of the best thinkers in horse racing, and we're going to have a powwow to help this game. And if you are interested, you could DM me. If you want to subscribe to the show, there's going to be certain advantages to subscribing as well. And I think we've done 17 episodes now with some of the smartest gamblers in the industry. Tony Zhou, I had Mike Shetty on, who had Golden Tempo on the Derby. If you haven't seen that episode, it's a good one. I had Vic Stauffer on, had Gibson Carruthers, a longtime mentor. Shu's always on the show when he wants to be. He's in Maryland right now at the Preakness. I got a lot of people that I think need a voice in horse racing, and I'm trying to create a more intimate experience, more personal experience. So please, I know you hear this all the time. I know you see it all the time. Subscribe and hit the bell thing so you can understand that when I speak about something, this is not for views. I'm not monetizing this channel. I am having fun, and I'm trying to get together the horse players. So literally just click the button, and I sound like an infomercial, but it's really a 2-second thing that means a lot to me. And if you really like what I'm doing, do it. Okay, to the Preakness. What's the pace going to be like? So we're going in with the 25% accuracy of predicting this pace. That's the first thing, right? So I know 25% of the time I'm going to be right. Okay, that's a problem. Let me check something here really fast, and let me make a bet so that I can. Okay, never mind. Or wait, do I have time still? I am multitasking, as you have probably gathered, and the joy of running your own show is you get to do what you want, and I want to do a tournament in the background for fun. All right, I gotta make sure that I understand here. Okay. Bear with me. I'm just gonna put one of these in really fast. The joys of requirements for tournaments too. That's a whole nother thing, is you oftentimes don't realize how when you play a tournament, there's a tournament today. I mentioned this 3 times. I'll mention it a 4th. There's a tournament at Laurel, and it's kind of exciting because if you have an opinion on the day and you want to express that, I'm gonna do this on my phone, and this is lagging. So, if you wanna play in a tournament today at ExpressBet, you can enter the tournament, and when you enter the tournament, you must donate $500 to the prize pool, and in doing so, you get a chance to win 20,000. More than 20, depends on how you define it. Um, and if you have it, you have the opinion, then you should do that and send it. But if you don't have the opinion, don't do it. Don't just bet because you're betting on a tournament. I mean, you can, but I like to I like to take my approach and just come in when I wanna snipe something. But um, the tournament's $1,500. You bet 1,000, you donate 500. So it's the only thing. It used to be much bigger than this. I mean, the whole tournament industry is just it's crumbling in my eyes. It's I mean, you have Twin Spires doing stuff, but really small stuff. But I like the small stuff. I think it's really important for the small stuff to grow the game. But I think there's so much more innovation that can happen, and I really commend anybody who's doing anything. So I'm giving Twin Spires props for doing stuff. I don't want it to be construed the wrong way, but I do think that you have a lot of issues with the rules and the payouts and the prize payouts. But I do really think that the KDBC did a great job of creating a beautiful tournament on a big day. So props to them. Okay, so now I am going to re-sign into this and then get back to the Preakness with you. Thank you for your patience and subscribe again if you have not, as I sound like an infomercial, which I need to do like a skit on getting people to subscribe just for fun. That would be kind of ridiculously ridiculous. Even though, again, I'm not monetizing this channel. I want everybody to quickly in the background in their mind. Wow, this room's getting really big. I want everybody to think about their Preakness assessment of the pace. Okay, so that's a little fun thing we're going to be doing today is what is going to be the pace of the what is going to be the pace? So I gotta mute this in the background. So I think you may not even hear it. Oh, there we go. When you think about the pace, there is always this difficulty in understanding what certain jockeys will do, right? There is a fundamental challenge with the malarkey that comes along with certain trainers on certain days trying to encourage their people to do things that you just wouldn't expect. And I think I'm going to turn off these comments now for the anyway. All right, so I'm going to turn off the comments. I'll turn those back on. Actually, I'm going to leave them on for the Preakness piece. Okay, so when it comes to the Preakness, you have to oh, no, I want to do 2 things at once. Okay, so what do you think the pace will be? Above average, average, or below average? You can use the wiggle spots and say slightly below average or slightly above average, but I think everyone in this race is of the opinion it's either going to be above average or slightly above average. Okay, I think that's back to the wisdom of the crowd. So I'm going to challenge it, right, and say, oh, maybe the pace is not going to be fast. It's hard to imagine that the pace is going to be slow. I would say slow would require let's see here. Slow would require Taj Mahal not to go to the front, which he doesn't have to be on the front. He's shown. So that's not inconceivable. Robusta to not go to the front after that last race and getting bumped, very unlikely. So Robusta confirmed. Chip Poncho, probably going to go to the front or near the front. Iron Honor, blinkers off, probably not going to go to the front. And then you have Napoleon Solo and Corona de Oro, who are going to go to the front. All right, so you have minimum, and Great White, maybe. Pretty Boy Mia or Miha or Mia, whatever, maybe. That's 5 horses that can go to the front. 5. Okay? So if 5 horses can go to the front, it's going to be very difficult to assume that 3 of those people or those horses hold back. Okay? That's a very low probability. So 5 confirmed front runners, 5, and Taj Mahal, or I don't know if you what to do with that horse. Probably not going to go to the front, in my opinion. Who knows? So given all of that, I'm going to say it's more than likely like a B, somewhere between a B and an A minus, which is a big range, meaning it's either above average or potentially, well above average. So that is the first inclination I have is, what if they go slow? Take the best front runner of the bunch and try to keep your fingers crossed. I wouldn't do that this year personally, and I'm not going to necessarily say who I'm betting on in the race, but I want to give you just the mindset. My first thought is, okay, is the narrative wrong? Is the pace going to be slow? No. I mean, is the narrative, is the pace going to be fast? Like the narrative, that's the narrative. Yes, it looks like it's fast. I challenged it. I don't see it being slow. Okay. And I know I'm getting technical, and there's a lot of people here that are watching that probably want some of this, but pardon me if it's getting too far in the weeds. After I've assessed that the pace will be fast-ish, but fast, that creates another dimension to the race. The race now becomes chaotic. Like I don't want to throw my hands up in the air, but it is chaos. And it's chaos for all the things. Rapidly improving 3-year-olds, number 1. Horses putting hundreds of pounds of weight on every month from here on out, or 50 pounds or whatever. Mentally changing. Racetrack that none of them have run on. Excruciating distance. I don't think the Preakness is, there's been that many mile and 3/16 races at Laurel. That's another dimension. Is that going to favor the front? Is it going to favor the back? Speed won a little bit yesterday. Watch the surface today. If you're seeing unlikely speed horses do well, then you might want to be a little more relaxed or forgiving and relax your anti-stance on the favorites and give them the speed horses, not the favorites. This is the weakness stakes. It's the weakness stakes because I feel weak. That's another dimension to the skit. It's so weak that I feel weak. I don't know what to do in this race. I don't want to know what to do in a race that I feel weak in. I don't like feeling weak when I bet. That doesn't mean I won't put something on it. I'm going to be in a tournament in position, right? Going into that race or in that race. So the weakness tells me, my body, I've turned it over in my head enough times. I could see the favorite going off at 5-6 to 1. I don't know who's going to win this race. That's just me. The pace doesn't help. The pace makes it worse. I agree with the public. I hate that, but I do. I agree that it's gonna be uncomfortable early. Watch one horse go to the front and open up 2 lengths on the field and slow it down to 113 or 114 and win. I might throw up in my mouth. That's what happened in racing because, as I said, you can only predict the pace, according to one of the top CAW players, 25% of the time accurately. So, I only care about predicting the pace to make money. I'm not trying to put pace maps, speed maps together to try to show people that I can predict a pace 70% of the time in a bell curve that doesn't lead to making money. I don't care if I can predict the pace right. I care about accurately finding value in a race to prove the public wrong. If I can prove the public wrong and take a heavy stance with my dollars backing it up and not just my empty words, then I'm onto something. That's what adds value to me as a person who is in the business of making money predicting the future. I'm coming at this from a little hardcore for a lot of you, I know. But I think, like, there's that whole thing that when you have your kid, and I don't have any kids, but if you have your kid in kindergarten or 3rd grade or whatever, and they're struggling, is it better to put them in a class that's with the gifted kids and the smart kids? Or is it better to put them in a class with everybody that's about the same as that person or that kid? I'm putting you in the PhD master class for a reason, because there are no master classes. There's no hardcore discussions about horse racing right now. My goal is not to get 100,000 subscribers, although I do want you to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. Infomercial attempt number 3 and 4, because when you subscribe, it shows the algorithm that you care, and that gives me the ability to do more on the marketing side, because I'm trying to reach all of the hardcore players, and it really, really matters to me for the sport to be able to reach a larger audience beyond horse players. My goal is to go beyond horse players. I think that's pretty obvious, but my skit that I did, the Weakness Stakes, was designed to reach beyond the horse players, even though it was targeted at the hardcore horse players in the industry to make people laugh. There's no humor in horse racing. I don't laugh when I watch the media in horse racing. To me, it's ultra cheese and ultra basic and vanilla. I want real hardcore discussions, and I want people that have color to come forward and be ridiculous like I did. Hopefully that encourages somebody out there, some horse player that has a bad beat and wants to do a skit on it. Love it. Invite you into it. Go for it. Do it on your phone, do a short, put on a mustache, pretend that you're Mr. Wrong, or maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do something around being Mr. Wrong. What were those guys like Mr. Strong and all those, not Care Bears, but I think the idea of just satire. We need more satire in our lives. My God, especially when you're betting on horses. It's very, very, very independent, very, very quiet lifestyle, because if you're good, you're not talking to people about what you're doing. Obviously, you can, it's fun if you're talking to a few people and mention a few things. And there's a place for the ego. I don't want to make it sound like I don't think that people should they should not get celebrated for winning or doing well. Props to Ed Dykey for winning the KDBC, saving his money the whole tournament to slam his 2 horses in the last 2 race in the Derby. That is courage. And he had a plan and he executed. Those are the kind of stories that matter to me. And I'm going to give a shout out to a guy, Larmy. Good work in the KDBC. And you got robbed by that CAW team, which was now confirmed to me, for slamming the Elvis horse. So, I mean, I'm assuming you were betting that to try to win the tournament. So I see you. That was cool. That's That's unlike you. It's the beginning. I like it. But horse players do need love, and I like horse players that do things unconventionally. There's nothing special to me about betting favorites. That doesn't mean that I don't respect those players. Betting favorites is fine. Bet your favorites. Try doing that professionally. See what happens. People can win tournaments a variety of ways. Winning is part of it. There are teams that would win Super Bowls, right? Like, I remember on the Colts. Well, I don't know if the Colts are the best analogy. Who's a team that, I guess the Ravens. It wasn't special. I mean, okay, anybody that wins the Super Bowls, come on. What am I saying? There is the style points that comes down to it. The style and the way you win a tournament matters as well. Right? There are certain scores that I will look at and put on the pedestal. Right? There are ways to win tournaments that blow my mind. There's number one bucket would be the luck bucket. There was a guy in the BCBC who catapulted to over 150,000, I think, 1 year or 10 years ago or something. And he hit a double with two like 30-1 shots. I mean, I respect that. It didn't feel like he thought he was going to hit it. If you win and he didn't win the tournament, he finished second, I think. That doesn't show the same ability as somebody who's hitting multiple prices or hitting a big long shot. You know, there's these levels, and this is me. Like, I know most people don't agree with me. I know most people don't like the way I roll. That's okay. I'm my own person. I want you to be your own person. If you want to play safe and you want to do your thing, do your thing. This is just me throwing it out there before I come back to the Preakness. When you're betting tournaments, style matters. The way you decide and the way you lose. I think it's really fun to look at how the players bet and to see the way they're doing things. It's really interesting to watch the decisions. I'm not saying that all tournaments should show what people are doing. I don't agree with that. I think a few tournaments showing some things is interesting. That's a whole nother conversation. I think that variety and diversity is important in life. That's what keeps the human species alive and the animal kingdom alive, evolution. Putting certainties on anything, especially in racing, is a little dangerous. That's why I said it's ranges. It's not about probability. It's a range. It's not about saying 4-1. It's a marker. Every time you pick a horse, set a bottom marker. If the horse does not go off at least 4-1, 5-1, 10-1, I will not bet this horse. Communication is very important. And so when it comes to designing tournaments, diversity wins. What's the ratio of tournaments at certain price points is one part of diversity. What's the diversity in the rules is another. How many minimum bets should be made and how many racetracks should be involved in a tournament is another question. And let me think. The tournaments, when you're showing the scores or not, obviously, you want to appeal to a larger audience, so I can see the importance of sharing the bets. But I don't buy the argument that real-time sharing of bets is going to help bring in new players. I think when the betting is done, I think you should share the bets, because the majority of people that aren't betting on horse racing, that are watching from the sports world or the fantasy world, they're going to learn by watching the postmortem. They're not going to learn by logging in and following along for tournaments, like that's the hardcore. That's like the like homie degens that like us that are going to be into it. Like, probably less than 2,000 people, if not less than 1,000, right? And probably only 500 of them put real money down these days. So I think it's important to recognize we speak freely. I'm speaking freely. So it's kind of a mirror for myself. We speak freely to be heard because something is inside of us that eeks to come out. This is my most radical self-expression that you get a window into. Okay. 15 years betting on horses. And here I am seeing the sport crumbling before my face to the point where it's probably going to end up in 3 or 4 states, and there's going to be far less racetracks, and there's not real incentives for owners anymore. Slots revenue can only carry you so far. You know, decoupling could come who knows where, hopefully not in Kentucky. But the fact is 3 times higher tax rate, 2 to 3 times lower win rate. Industry, how do you tackle that problem? Well, 30 years later, we're not in a better position. 20 years later, we're not in a better position. So my goal is to share with you my mindset, some of it, and create some fun stuff, some fun skits. That's why I did that skit, is I want to have fun. I know I'm serious, and I know there's a lot of people listening right now, and they want the seriousness. And I can do more serious stuff, but I want a balance. I want diversity. So I'm going to go off on tangents, and I'm going to come back to the Preakness now. I know somebody's asking about it. Take away from this, tournaments are special. Props to these companies doing tournaments still. We need more of them. We need to understand the rules. We need to have diversity. We need to understand to attract new players. I don't believe sharing the bets in the real time is going to attract new players to horse racing. It's an opportunity for people to feel good and get, in their feels when they watch someone lose and bet ridiculousness on crappy favorites. It's a weird dopamine spike, because when you see somebody bet a horse you don't like and lose, it can feel good. People like that feeling. And that's the sickness, is when you're watching other people and rooting against them and saying, oh, what did he bet? Oh my God, I can't believe he bet that horse. I think that's the number one reason that people are excited to look at bets. And then they want to see who people hit. But does it really matter if, you saw Dikey, whether you knew, in real time that he did nothing, and then all of a sudden he bet the last race and he won it? Like, I don't see the value of that other than people just kind of poaching and trying to look at other people's opinions. Like it's like poker. It's like, imagine if the poker industry said, okay, every time you're going to bet, we're going to show your cards to this group of people on the side. And they're just going to look and they're going to watch. If you remember, poker blew up not because of real-time card hold showing. It blew up because it was all edited after the fact. It's all about the editing after. There's a lot that can be done, and I'm here to work with everybody. I think all the industry, especially the tournament guys, I really look up to anybody who wants to spend their waking hours creating content around horse racing or creating stories around gambling, which is what horse racing is. It's predicting the future and feeling good about seeing something that somebody can't. So I look up to you people that do that. You want to talk about something that would be cool, is doing more skits around betting. I started it out about betting, but not even geared on the tournaments. The days of talking to the camera to grow the game, we've had 10 years. It's not working. It's fun, in some ways. It's not working. How many serious sports bettors, or serious fantasy players have come into the game because of watching people talk about horse racing? There's plenty of metrics that they could probably have. It's probably not really worth mentioning, right? So until you get the major influencers to actively be engaged in horse racing, um, I think obviously there's one big one that could really help the game. Um, but he's upset about the CAAWs, and I understand. So in the show, um, I made a proposal. I made a proposal to cut the rebates all the way down to 3% for everybody that's betting big money. Let's see them leave. What's going to happen though is they will always bet at the racetracks that don't do that. I'm curious as an experiment to see what happens given the 5 million a year that 2 to 5 million each of those teams invest a year in their overhead minimum. I'm curious what will happen when they do that, when the industry does that for one track. And I mean flat rate 3%, no cut them off 2 minutes, cut them off entirely. And let's see what happens. Let's see if the narrative, back to challenging the narrative, let's see if the narrative is true. If they've made 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 million in horse racing their whole lives, don't you think they're going to love this game and they're going to love a new challenge? Do you really think of the 17 teams or whatever it is, probably a little more, but if team 17 wasn't allowed to get as big of a rebate as they have, are they really going to walk away entirely forever? Let's put it out there. Let's give Dave Portnoy what he wants for one track. Let's check it out. Give it a year. Maybe somebody like, I don't know, with some money could say, you know what? I'll back it up. Or I'll create some kind of other exchange for racing. What if NYRA said, we won't allow rebate shop bettors for 2 months, 3 months, whatever? What if they did that? And in exchange, someone with marketing abilities said, if you do that, I will market the game more than you've ever dreamed. Whatever that money that comes in from the rebate shops, even if it is 30 or 40%, and I'm still assuming that some of them are going to stay in. If 20% of the money went away for an experiment, a pilot program where major influencers could commit to serious marketing of horse racing as a gambling game and not a warm and fuzzy game, which it is, but it's not the way that a lot of us treat it. My point is, it's totally different outcomes. Racing cannot continue to do the same stuff expecting different results. It's, as we know, Einstein said, it's insanity. Back to the Preakness. Okay, a couple people said here, even every horse in the Preakness requires a leap of faith. That I'm not really comfortable with. Is it a pass or a price hunt? That's up to you to decide your probabilities. I'm not here to give you horses. I'm here to tell you that you must come up with a model or a way to indicate your range of a horse. What's the minimum you'll bet? Track it. Track all your 20 to 1s, track all your 10 to 1s, track all your 5 to 1s, look at the things that are in common, and you tell me. Everything's a hunt. Everything. Would we have to play the crap out of that track as retail bettors? No. You could. You know, it's funny. All these people that are complaining about these odds drops, okay? Oh my God, okay. You want to talk about an interesting case study? If NYRA shut out the CAAWs for 3 months and said, not shut them out, said 3% max take rebate rate for high volume players. Anybody betting more than $1 million a year, 2 million a year, whatever. It's usually the standard is 2 million. The retail players have complained for years and years about this impacting their play. Let's see what happens when they have better odds. If you're losing 30 to 50% a year, as Pat Cummings said, you're not price sensitive. The people that left were price sensitive. So now the argument is, are the people that are losing 30 to 50% a year going to bet more? And are the guys that left going to come back? Are they going to come back and bet more now because the odds are better? Or were they just defeated as people because racing is impossible to win at if you don't put in the time and the energy and have a lot of math and discipline? I have my own personal opinions on that. I'm not going to say anything because I don't know, and I'm not qualified to say whether the players are going to come back or not. I can tell you I know several that have walked away. I don't know if doing that would change things, because when you walk away from racing, and you look at yourself from a clean perspective, and you look at the time that you put into it, man, that's a real tricky one. The hourly rate that you're getting on horse racing for most people, once they have a moment, it's like stepping out of that toxic relationship and they go, wait, why was I with that person? That's a whole nother conversation. I'm not calling racing toxic. I'm just saying that when majority 99% of the player or 99% of the players are losing 30% a year, the retail players, if 1 out of 100 players are winning in horse racing, and I've heard some things of this from various people, not speaking on behalf of the ADWs, but there's grumblings and stuff. You're playing this for entertainment, even though you think you're not playing it for entertainment. You think you're playing it because you're good. You think you're playing it because you want to win, or you think you're going to win. And apologies, because I'm going to be placing another bet in this tournament real quick here. But if the odds jump 15% or whatever, so let's say the 6-to-1s are 8-to-1, and let's say the 3-to-1s are 7-to-2, and the 4-to-1s are 5-to-1, is that really going to bring in all those people that left? Are they coming back? Really? You tell me. I don't know. Usually the rule of thumb is 10% is a good number. So I believe that marketing is the key to saving the sport. And this is my little ridiculous attempt to help the game by creating the PhD for horse racing and philosophical deep dive, and then the ridiculous of the ridiculous in the Preakness skit I just did on Twitter and YouTube to try and so if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. It helps. I'm trying to grow this game, and I got to reach the sports bettors. So if you think that what I'm doing has got value, show me some love. It takes 2 seconds, and hit the bell so you can know when I'm doing shows. I'm doing a show every Saturday, and I want more players to hear about this game, not in a generic fashion. I don't like, well, I do like vanilla ice cream. I don't like vanilla. I know that there's a lot of reasons that people keep it vanilla. I don't want to keep it vanilla. I want this to be real talk. I'm putting together a group of some of the most intelligent horse players in the country, and we're going to have a powwow and a think tank talking about a lot of this stuff. We're at that point. We are in not the 2-minute warning, we're in the 1-minute warning, and we're down by at least probably at least a touchdown. It's not 2 scores yet, but it's a touchdown. And I'm not saying that, I'm not the pessimist. I'm not saying that racing won't survive. I'm not saying racing can't regain some momentum, but without marketing, it's going to fail. So let's go back to what I said. If NYRA or a track decided to set a floor of rebates at 3%, which is cutting their revenue by, who knows, definitely from 40% of the CAW money to, I would say, at least 20%. So let's say they cut 20% of the revenue as an experiment to understand how sensitive, how price sensitive are the retail horse players. Are they really going to care if their horses go from 6 to 8? And you're also not going to see the odds drops, which matters. I don't want to gloss over that. If that were to really matter, let's see if those guys are singing praises. Let's give the horse player some possibilities, and let's do a deal with some of the biggest influencers in horse racing that have been complaining about this forever. Let's yield, lay down their swords, stop fighting. How much money does it take for horse racing to lose to actually make a change? And just see what happens. You lose 20% of your revenue, 40% of the CAAW money goes down to 20%, and then you get millions and millions of dollars in marketing from influencers or some type of agreement. Like, that to me is the challenge I put to Portnoy. If you want the CAAWs to get out of the game, volunteer your services. Do something about it. The complaining has been going on for too long, and it's not helping the game. What helps the game is actually taking risks and putting your money in your mouth behind real ideas. So I wasn't planning on saying any of this today, and I kind of like that things just roll off the tongue, but I want people to think differently about how to promote this game. So that said, I'm going to put another bet in here in this tournament. If you are in the Preakness tournament today, 1,500, you will see me in there. I also wanted to open up the floor to some more questions that I'll answer as I put these little bets in. And other than that, I want to go back to the Preakness and answer more questions about that. I'm just gonna have to do this on my phone because it's just going slow with the bandwidth. All right, so back to the Preakness. Let me see what the latest comment was. To multitask when. If you had any idea of the bandwidth issues that come with getting a Starlink that you're, I'm just going to click over and come back to it. Okay, let me look at your comments. Okay. Oh, I see that's what's doing that. Okay. So when I start streaming stuff at the same time, that's what's creating the problem. Okay. Let me just kill out of this window over here, and that will bring back a better stream. Okay. Okay. All right, here we go. I enjoy racing and break even, but I can be consistently profitable elsewhere. Best ball fantasy, good for you. I love fucking best ball fantasy. So that kind of change would make my handle go up, but it's not bringing in new players. Man, this bandwidth, like almost 150. I don't understand it. Yeah, I hear you, dude. I don't know. I'm not sure. All right, thanks for agreeing with me on that. All right, I'm going to go back to no comments for now. Let's go back to the Preakness, and I'm going to get out of here soon. All right, this has been a long show. Thanks for sticking around if you are. If you haven't seen my skit on the weakness thing, get ready. Get ready. It's a little jab at the industry. If you guys don't watch JP Spears, and see his stuff, it's hilarious. He's been making fun of hippies. Okay. Preakness, to wrap up. Pace is going to be fast. Choose your best closer. Angle. Realize that chaos is not necessarily profitable. But I'm going to end now. I got to get out of here. Even if the pace melts, Some horses get brave. They're 3-year-olds. Nobody's running this track. The distance is grueling. Anyway, I'll leave you with that. I want everyone to remind yourself to stay disciplined, bet within your means, drink your kombucha, hold yourself accountable, have fun, and have a great time watching the weakness stakes, because it's going to be fun for everybody.